Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. Don't forget to sign up to my email list, which is in the description box below this video. Thank you very much. That's the best way of staying in touch with me. Now, regular subscribers or viewers will know that I am a firm advocate of natural birth. I think it's the key, one of the keys to the human race turning itself around once we've got through all this bullshit with the demonic forces. And if you go onto the markattwoodshow.com or look into my BitChute and Rumble channels and search for videos I've done on birth, I've done lots of videos on the nature of the satanic ritual that is modern Western medicalized birth, with Janice Barcelo. I've done a couple of videos with her. Also Nikita Stark in London, who's a real firm advocate from when push comes to shove.co.uk. So I have covered this subject. In my own birth journey taught me a lot about, but with my children, not my personal birth journey. My personal birth journey was a bit of a nightmare, actually, but they didn't want me to come here. Let's put it that way. Anyway, as a father, I experienced my first child was an emergency cesarean. That's it. And then there was a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean, which was extremely difficult for their mother to get past the draconian medical authorities. Third one was a natural water birth, which was absolutely wonderful. It was divinely beautiful experience to witness. And then the first all-natural birth of twins in the UK in 40 years. So that's how I know about this. I'm not a woman, so I haven't experienced it from a woman's perspective. But I've got a very interesting guest today who's a bit of a hero to me from Australia, and it's Jacqueline Hope. How you doing, Jacqueline?
Well, I'll pay you later for that, Mark.
Well, Jacqueline, you were a midwife for how many years?
28 years altogether.
Is that all?
No, 38 years. I'm lying. I'm just lying about my age. 38 years.
How many babies did you deliver?
I didn't deliver anything because the post office delivers. I birthed.
Okay.
I don't know, because in 1975 when I qualified, you couldn't get your certificate until you'd birthed and been present at and been part of 100 births, and now it's 10.
Ah, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, which is why both in general nursing and midwifery, once you've qualified, having done that long course, you have to be a graduate nurse and a graduate midwife, which means you're supervised, because you're not actually doing hands-on. You're doing so much paperwork, but you're not actually having hands-on. So for that year, you need to be supervised, which is just crazy.
Yeah, well, me and midwives have not really got on that well over the years. In fact, I don't know if I told you this story when we met in Morocco, but there was the midwife, the hospital midwife. We had a private midwife because
Yes.
I understood the need for continuity, and because it was a natural birth, it was actually an orgasmic birth. I forgot to mention that, which is
For
their mother, because she discovered Michel Odont, the French guy, and I thought it sounded crap. I was like, orgasm
without violence.
Absolutely brilliant. It was an orgasm. But anyway, while this was happening, I had to kick people out of the room because we did decide to go into the hospital. But even though there was an Egyptian doctor the day before, when she was about to give birth, she was in labor, and he was insisting she had these injections, and she said no.
Yes.
And she is an amazing mother, and what she did, the research that she went through, and the strength of character and the courage that it took to stand up to this guy.
Yes.
But he stood there in front of her because she wouldn't take the injections. He said, "You want your babies to die?" And she immediately stopped contracting. And then we went home, but the next morning had to go in. And it was a pragmatic decision to be in the hospital because it was twins, and there's always the danger of one cord going the other way. And because personally, I think we should have birthing centers that are like beautiful earth ships with candles and music and massages and aromatherapy. That's what they should be, with an emergency unit next door.
Absolutely.
That's what I think. Or at home, birth at home. But yeah, so this doctor was just a nightmare, and the midwife was, and he was like, "You can't have a water birth here." The next day, we were in the delivery room. We'll get into all that, and she asked me to turn the taps on so that she could do her waterfall meditation as part of her thing. And I turned the taps on. The midwife came in and went, "Mr. Attwood, come outside." Took me outside into the corridor, and she said, "The doctor told you can't have a water birth." And I just looked at her. I just looked at her like this and went, "How are you going to stop me?"
Yes.
Apparently, she still talks about that if she's still alive in her post-retirement midwifery course talks. Because nobody once in her 40-year career that ever said
Challenged her.
never challenged her. I mean, and I've got a lot of respect for anybody that becomes a midwife. I really have. But these fucking medical Nazis that, you know, they actually have no power because it's your birth. And as the father, I'm 50% owner of that baby. So anyway, I'm rambling just to give you a bit of background because I'm quite proud of the fact that this is also part of my awakening. You know,
yes, absolutely.
Observing these births over 18 years was a big part of my awakening, especially to the medical system.
Yes, and to the what happens is when I was doing my parent education classes, I was always being told off because I've been called Wacky Jackie in the 4 countries in the world I've worked in.
I can confirm you are indeed
Wacky
Jackie.
Seriously. And so we would, because I did home births, we would have to come in a month a year to keep the abnormalities up. So you're doing your epidurals, forceps, vacuums, whatever. So all of the hospitals have a sign that says knock before entering. So as soon as I heard the knock, I would run across the room, open the door and stand with my hand up the door frame and say, "What can I do for you, darling?" And they go, how dilated is she? So first of all, her name's Mary. And secondly, her cervix hasn't read your policies and procedures, so it doesn't know it's got to dilate a centimetre every 2 hours. But if you'd like to ask me, how's Mary coping with the contractions? Are all her observations within normal parameters? Is the baby's heartbeat fine? The waters are clear? And would Mary ever want to do this again? If you'd like to know that, I'll tell you. But right now, we don't need you. And they go, oh, and they go. And that's the point, that at the end of the day, how I was trained, I think, in the best time where my tutor midwife said to us, this couple but made this baby in privacy. They will birth this baby in privacy, and you are the honored guest at this festival. I've never forgotten that. Never forgotten that.
That's exactly how it should be.
Yeah. And so I was going to interview you. See? So the question I wanted to ask you was, why do you think it's important for men to be present at the birth?
Oh, that's a very good question, and something I learnt, because I'll just give a background to that is, you know, when I grew up, it was always like the guys in my family and people that I witnessed were be down the pub smoking cigars, you know, or hiding at the house, or you know, and they didn't feel like they were there. And I've spoken to a lot of women who've given birth who say that their husbands or their boyfriends or whatever actually they don't want them there. But, and I understood that as well, but I learned that your job as a man is to understand, if there's any men watching this who are thinking about, or pass this to any young men so they get to understand it. Your responsibility as the father is to look into birth, look into natural birth, and become like a lion.
Yes.
What's the word? Walking around the perimeter. So your job is to keep them safe and keep everybody else back. Because especially in the NHS, they were like 10 people. Suddenly, I turned around, there were 10 people there, and my wife said to me, "Can you tell them to go away?" And I turned around and said, "Could you all leave, please?" And they were like, "What?" Nobody's ever told them to leave before.
And that's why we let him in.
No, but this is why I said, "No, can you just fuck off?" I had to say, just go. And they were like, "Oh," and they all left the room. I was like, "How dare you? This is a really private event, you know." So I think that's the man's role. And in the emergency cesarean, I was holding her hand and just telling her it was going to be okay. I mean, that was butchery. It was utterly. I mean, but we didn't know any better.
Absolutely. And I think, Mark, this is why I was asking you, because I was trying to find the research so that I could, be credible and say this said this, but I can't find it. But I remember, and it was somewhere in Sweden, one of the Nordic countries. They did research and found that the men who were present at the birth of their child, the incidence of sexual, physical, and abuse was vastly reduced for exactly what you've said. It brings the lion out in you. When we take somebody to a window and go, it's the third one on the left, which is what they did for many years, you were not connected to that baby at all. You didn't know it was your baby. And so that's why that, and for this little soul, because you know that I'm working with People's Health Alliance, and it's in Australia since August. And surprise, surprise, I'm on the core group, and
Brilliant.
I'm the PR and media person because I can talk. Don't ask me to do spreadsheets. But why I'm trying to get the midwives here in where I am in Perth is what's happening at the moment is that they're so terrified of going into hospitals for any intervention that they don't want.
Yep.
And it's 7,000 Australian dollars for a private midwife, 3,500 for a doula. And as I said to you, don't talk to me about doulas. I'm going to have to revise that. But for me, when I went to America to a workshop, and obviously this came from the Americans, and I said, what do the doulas do at your birth? And she said, well, ma'am, they take the juice out the job because they get to nurse the woman from the waist up, and we get the bit that's sued. It's holistic. It's holistic. But what I would like is to see all caregivers in the world of delivering or birthing or whatever to be all trained to all the levels of emergency, rather than, so what's happening now in Perth is that people are saying, I can't afford a midwife, I don't go into hospital, so I'm going to free birth. Now, free birth means you have absolutely no antenatal care, you have no one present at the birth, and that to me is criminally ridiculous. Because in the 38 years that I've worked in this world or been in service to it, the saddest thing I've ever done is put a dead baby in a woman's arms at a home birth.
Oh, God.
Thank God there was nothing I could have done, should have done, or might have done to prevent that, because the baby had probably died hours before or possibly a day before. But the point of that is 99.9% of the time, you do not need me. This is something we've been doing forever. But that tiny percent when you do need me, you're saving mother and baby's lives. And that's what we need to do. We need to, and people say to me, but isn't home birth dangerous with your first? And I say, if you died out having your first baby, we'd have died out as a species millions of years ago.
That one always, sorry, that one always cracks me up, because how long have hospitals been about?
Absolutely. But again, I wrote this down. In 1970 in England, the Peel report was brought out, and it said it was safer for all women to be delivered in hospital. There was no research done on that. There was no, what it meant was as soon as they brought all women into hospital, you now created more posts for consultant obstetricians. And I saw this quote that I really loved. This is by someone called Marsden Wagner. It says, having a highly trained obstetrical surgeon attend a normal birth is analogous to having a pediatric surgeon babysit a healthy 2-year-old. It's two diagonally opposed things. Most doctors have never, ever, ever seen a normal birth because they only come in as the heads come in to catch a baby.
Listen to this. On my second birth, my wife's second birth, the doctor was coming in. The midwife there was brilliant. She was on our side because a VBAC is quite a difficult thing to achieve.
Yes.
And she was on my wife's side, and this doctor kept coming in with a scalpel in her hand, going, "Are we ready to cut?" And I was like, "No, out you go, out you go." I kept pushing her out, and I found out later that the doctors in that hospital have a competition. They have a competition on how many people they slice open that day.
Wow,
that's sick.
Yes, I think the sad bit is the midwives that are working in hospital are really trying to do their best.
I know.
And that believe me, I didn't know that gift of that baby was a gift to my practice. Because what I would then say to that, because in England, if there's an outcome, an unwanted outcome, you have to have a tribunal. You have to stand there. I had to stand there between and had consultant obstetricians, registrar, consultant pediatricians, the senior manager, and any midwife that wanted to sit in on it. And when I stood up to give my version of what happened, I said, after I've told you what has happened, I've given my story. If any of you can tell me what I could have done, should have done, or might have done, please tell me, because I never want anyone standing here. Because what that should be doing is us learning from a mistake. Nobody goes to work going, let's see if we can stuff this up. But if we hide it, then that's when problems happen. And so what I'm doing now is that I'm doing workshops that are called Reframing Your Birth Experience. And this is my blurb that I put on to explain this. So it says, hello, my name's Jacqueline Hope, and I was a midwife for 38 years in 4 countries in the world. I've been blessed and privileged to support the newborn sacred birth journey from the spiritual realm into the woman's body, out down through the sacred portal of her vagina, to emerge as a human being here on earth. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Unfortunately, the process of birth has largely been stolen from women's knowledge by the over-medicalization of this process in hospitals and managed by unenlightened doctors and, sadly, some midwives. In my career, I facilitated home births, birth center births, water births, and hospital births by empowering the woman to believe in their innate ability to go within, use the wisdom of her female ancestors who are with her energetically, helping her at the birth of her child in her power. Using my many years of experience to bring mother and baby safely together as she begins the journey of motherhood. It is with huge sadness that I've had as much as 80% of women tell me that they've had some disappointment, regrets, and even trauma around their birth experiences. Let me help you to reframe those experiences so that you can educate and empower our daughters to have experiences that they cherish and wish to repeat as they bring to fruition our emerging new earth society with love, joy, and confidence. And to this end, I've written a book called All the Babes of My Life, A Midwife Remembers, telling the stories of ordinary women who had the most empowering births they wanted in an organization that didn't particularly want them to have it. An audio of the chapter of this book will be when you book with me, you get that. Like I said to you right at the beginning of this, Mark, and I'm still embarrassed that when I had that accident in Morocco, that while I'm sitting there with my broken wrist and trying to, you didn't know this bit, I'm trying to cover my shoulders because in Muslim law, you'd have to be covered with my dress around my waist, showing everybody my knickers. I didn't know this. And you came around the corner smoking, looked at the dead body and went, goodness gracious, or other words. And then I'm holding my broken wrist saying, Mark, you have to publish my book now. You have to publish my book. And you said, bloody hell, Jacqueline, there's easier ways of getting my attention than this. Well, and I'm still suffering.
There you go. We've published it.
Excellent.
So,
and so this is all about, this is seriously about, I want young women to say, of course I'm going to have a home birth. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
And then when things don't go right, this is what happens with birth. When it goes wrong, it goes wrong spectacularly quickly and terrible. That's why you need the expertise of a caregiver, whatever you call her, because in People's Health Alliance, you won't be able to call yourself doctor, nurse, or midwife because that's a protected title in their world. So I was thinking of a birth facilitator, but that's going into common law with births and ships and docks. So I'm like, what could we call ourselves? And then I went, an earthbound facilitator.
Nice.
Because you're coming here. I like that. And I said a nurse could be a health restorer because that's health is normal, not nursing. Mm-hmm. And doctors could be diagnosticians. That's all we need them for. Thank you. We need you. And again, what happened, you know, I had 5 doctors telling me that I had to go to theatre and have this wrist plated.
Oh, I know.
And
I mean, you know, talk about things being meant to be.
well, so now I got to Australia and I went to the local hospital. They did another X-ray. They said, yes, we'll put you on the trauma list for tomorrow, and we're going to take you to theatre, plate your wrist, put wires in you, and off we go. My spiritual body was saying, do not let them give you anesthetic. You won't wake up from it. Do not let them put metal in your body. You've had to have it taken out. Your body doesn't like it. So I have these 2 people here. So I'm waiting to go to theatre. They said, we're taking you down for a hand X-ray. I said, I had one yesterday. They went, no, your right hand, because we want a comparison. Okay. And we're going to do a CAT scan. Well, I don't like small places. So when I get down to the CAT scan, he said, could you lie on your tummy and put your hand through the machine? I'm like, yes, because I don't want it on my third eye. So I did that, get back to the ward, and now I'm sitting here with these 2 voices. This voice is saying, please, please, please don't let them take you to theatre. This one's saying, you arrogant madam, this is 5 qualified doctors who've told you have to have this done, but once in your life, do as you're told. This beautiful hand surgeon came up and he said, Jacqueline, do you know you have this weird knob, this lump on the outside of your wrist? I said, yes, I've got multiple exostosis. I've got them all over my body. He said, brilliant. Every doctor that's seen you has thought that that's a broken bone that's been displaced out. They want to push it in, do wires and plate you up. He said, but the CAT scan has shown me that your tendon is perfectly intact. If I try to push it in and do that, this is what he said, you might lose the use of your wrist. Whoa. So he said, so I think, my dear little old lady, I think the best thing to do, Danny, is we don't do the operation. I said, does that mean I can go home? I love you. So do you hear how you've been doing this, Mark, you've had these experiences all of your life. We have to listen to that little voice. We do. I almost caved in Morocco because he was suave and wonderful, and it was a very beautiful clinic, and he was saying, Jacqueline, I can do this operation in minutes, and you will stay in my beautiful clinic for 4 days, and then we will send you back to your family in Australia. And I'm like, oh, we still make it part. And then the little voice heard 4 days in a foreign country that you can't speak the language, you don't know what they're giving you. I don't think so. So I said, look, I need to get home to my family. But so this is me with all my knowledge. For women who are trying, like your wife did, to have the guts to say no is amazing. And that's what we need to do as midwives, to encourage them. For me, when you come with your 25-page birth plan, I groan, because that's an indictment of my profession, that you have to write this down so you'll get what you want. My attitude has always been, if you say, I want a birth hanging from the chandeliers, I'm going to say, well, I don't think it's going to take you 8, love, but we'll give it a go. So I want you to say, I tried that and I didn't like it, not they wouldn't let me do it. And the man's role, which I think is really amazing, as you said, is for them to support the woman. So they would come in and they'd hands on hips and they'd say, Jack, we don't want pain relief in labour. And I'd say, well, that's not a problem for me, darling, because what I'm going to do is cup your testicles, and every time she has a contraction, I'm going to squeeze them, and she can tell me how much pain she isn't in. The only person in the room who's in charge of this is over there. But I understand that you don't want her in pain.
No, well, yeah, I mean, you're like the best midwife I've ever met. Well, there's the one.
You can get away with murder with humour, you know that.
Absolutely. But the one in England that helped us out, she was amazing, actually. What was I going to say? Yeah, I was going to talk about this. Look, you guys watching this. So Jacqueline asked me to publish this. She wrote the book. I got her to do an audio book as well, because I think she's got a great voice and it's authentic. And it's, you know, for those that want to listen to it in the gym, if you want to buy either of them, I put 2 links up. I've set it so you can pay whatever you want. So if you're on limited income, you know, just have it for free. But if you can afford it, pay, because I know you're going to be putting money of this, whatever's taken from this, towards.
I'm definitely going to. I need to recoup the cost of going to Morocco. because I stole it at the mortgage. But I've worked for Perth Homeless Support Group for 5 years. And the only reason I had to stop was because they insisted that their volunteers were made to have these measures. If not, they would take the accreditation off Jed Fay, who's the CEO, and her wonderful husband. That we regularly serve 200 people a week in the city of Perth. It's so easy. It's so easy to fall down that road. I am 3 mortgage payments away from the street.
Well, everybody
is everybody else. And that's the point. And here in WA, I don't know if you know this, but we have a big mining industry. So the men go and do, it's called FIFO, fly in, fly out. So they'll be away for 2 weeks and back for a week. They earn squillions of dollars.
Well, that's all the Irish lads around here are down there.
Yes, but what it means is you're virtually a single mother. You're not seeing your children grow up. You're not being able to be there for their sports events because you're working. So it stresses the relationships. It stresses the men. And at the end of the day, we're chasing that god of money.
Yeah.
But so what happens is when they fly up, they can say no contract, and they have to make their own way back. So now they've got the 4-bedroom house, the 2 big cars, kids in private school, and overnight they've lost their income.
Yeah.
So it's just wicked. It's really wicked. So yes, I will definitely, as I am doing now, it costs $12 a day to feed someone on the streets with this organization. And so she knows, I've told Jed that that I will support you. I still support it. Take it out my pension every week because it's less than a cup of coffee and a cake, but it's feeding somebody. And we can't save the world, but we can do a little bit of something.
Well,
which is why I've done all the traveling.
Well, it's
but because, sorry, I was going to say, I volunteered as a midwife in Peru in 2011 because I thought, oh, fabulous, I'll go and see normal birth. When I got there, they took all of the bad experiences of the West and applied it. So they put drips up on everybody. They put the drip that sets the contractions off, which is very carefully monitored through machines, but they didn't. They just opened it up. And the women birthed very quickly, but the baby are traumatized because it's coming out really rapidly. They had nothing, no equipment at all. One young woman came, she'd got, plastic jelly shoes. It's very cold in Cusco. When the sun goes away, because it's so high up, it's freezing. Her waters went and pouring down her legs, and I'm opening all the cupboards. My Spanish had gone. It was un poquito when I went and came back with un poquito, but lots of hand waving. So I'm opening all the cupboards, trying to find something to mop her up. And I'm trying to say to the midwife, give me something to mop her up. And she shrugged her shoulders. The woman had to take her own cardigan off and mop herself up. Look, I know the NHS is completely gone, but we still are living luxury in comparison to the rest of the world. Anyway, I gave the papers to my son a couple of days before I was going to go there to volunteer. I said, keep those papers safe for me, son. He said, what are they? I said, well, the company I'm volunteering with have insisted that I take out an insurance policy for $100,000 in case I'm kidnapped. He said, for goodness sake, mother, don't go anywhere near Bolivia. It's the drug capital of the world. I went, I know, son, but you and I both know you'd be saying, now here's the deal. I'll keep the money and you keep my mother. And in 2013, I worked in a children's home in Kathmandu, and I unofficially adopted 2 children. Luna, who I've helped to become a nurse, and she's now a diabetic educator. We've applied for her to come out and visit me in Australia, $150 for a holiday visa, and they've turned her down.
Why?
$150. It's a load of money in Nepal. So we are applying again, and we just throwing lots of documents at them. But the young boy, Mahesh, is now film and videographer, so he's doing documentaries. Ooh. And I swim every day at 6 a.m. at the weekdays in the ocean and 7 at the weekend with an organization called the Human Excellence Project, which is Paul Holliday's idea. And it's like trying to build a community. and getting in the water in the winter is challenging. But last night we were down at it was 32 degrees at 6 o'clock. We watched the sun go down. We had dolphins flying, and they made a table in the sand. You know, and you dig you sit on the bench bit of the sand, and everybody brought food. And it's how we're going to live, that everybody supports everybody else. But one of the lovely boys and I say boys because I'm so old, and so Kyle and his partner Simone went on the trip to Nepal, doing the base camp at Everest and then the Annapurna Trail. And they got to meet Mahesh, and he was their private videographer for some of their tour. And they said they're so proud to have met Mama's friends. And again, same thing, Mark, we can't save the world, but if everybody does a little something, it works. And you know that from when we were in Morocco, those people were just amazing, just amazing. And you know, the guys were amazing. They called me Jacqueline, Queen of the Desert.
Well, you were.
And it was amazing trip. And you're going to do it again, aren't you? Because it was so successful.
I haven't decided. It wasn't. I didn't actually. It was hard work for me.
Absolutely, you looked absolutely exhausted. You'd come off the back of your trip to America, and then you did.
I had multiple opinions coming from multiple people all day long, and you know, and there was 50 people there that knew me, but I didn't know anybody. So it was actually quite. It wasn't a retreat for me. It was.
No, it was hard work, wasn't it?
It was hard work. So I haven't decided yet, but.
And it certainly wasn't the trip I expected to have. I did not expect to come home with this.
Well, you know, 3 hours into the retreat,
saved your life.
There's a guy dead on the road, and one of the women on the retreat's broken a bloody wrist. I mean, it was just, whew. But you know, everything, all of these trips and everything have all been spiritual anyway. And whatever people thought of the retreat, there were things going on for everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
And, you know, and it brings a lot of things to the surface. And the desert, the Sahara Desert, I chose it because my friend Emma runs the camps there, and she's been telling me for years. She said it was the best retreat. She loved you lot. The things, there's something about the energy of the desert, you know, that really does things to you. So yeah, it was overall, I think, good. But I think I pushed myself too far. Basically,
you took on too much.
I tend to do that, and you know, it's like everything. I mean, last week I did a talk in Buxton in Derbyshire.
Yes.
And I went there because they're just really nice people. But then I got emails saying don't go there because they're bad people and this, that. And I was like, I don't want to get involved in this. I just want to go and meet Martin Geddes, give a talk to a load of people that I've never seen before. And a couple of people from the desert came, and that was nice. And but then I went onto this Telegram group, and there was a woman who came to one of my show in Manchester, going, well, I went to his Manchester show and I didn't feel very loved. And I was like, for fuck's sake, you know, I'm there, I'm hugging everybody, 500 people. I'm then on stage. I'm then on stage for 7-8 hours. Yes. I'm managing the stage. I'm managing, my kids are there. My mum's there. I've got all these people. I tried to talk to everybody, and she moaned because I didn't give her enough love. And I was like, the fuck, what do you want from me?
Yes. So and I think that's the point. I think that's the point, Mark, that because people really are feeling that, you know, all of our tenants have been knocked down. The government hates you. They really don't give a stuff about you. No, all politicians are lying.
They want you dead, actually.
The medical world is not healing you, which is why PHA has taken off, because I was hearing that in England now it's an 8-hour wait for an ambulance. We're slower taking off here because ours hasn't degraded to your level yet. But it has to work. It can't not, because pharmaceutical industries have never healed anybody. But we do need, and I'm saying we need to build a bridge between allopathic medicine and holistic modalities, because if it hadn't been for the diagnostic tool, I would have ended up possibly losing the youth. So do you see what I'm saying? We still need all this amazing technology, but we don't need the pharmaceutical industries because they don't want to cure you. They want a customer for life. It's a good business model.
Well, I don't think there's anything to do with money. I think
Power and control.
no, it's you know they're. I want to keep this video on YouTube, so I'll be careful.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, but I hear this thing about, oh, it's all for profit. No, it isn't. These guys are satanic, and they want your soul. That's what they want, and birth is the beginning of that process.
Yes, both ends, but sacred birth, sacred death.
That's what we should have.
Yes.
Yeah. And we need a holistic approach. We need a preventative approach to illnesses. You know, everybody's been brainwashed into. I mean, even my mum recently. I went to see my mum last week for a 72nd birthday, and she said she was going to the pharmacy. I said, well, why are you going to the pharmacy? She said, get my pills. What pills? My cancer pills. I said, what the fuck? How many times, Mum? How many times have I told you they want you dead? You agreed to stop taking these pills. She just flips back. Because
you know the lovely camp doctor who was really sweet, and then the so no names, and the interpreter from England who was very lovely. In my room, he's wagging his finger at me saying, "You are the worst patient I've ever had. You will not do as you're told. You will not rest. You do not take my drugs." And she piped up from the corner, "And you keep dancing." So I told you that I was born in Dublin, Irish father, English mother, so I can go into the brogue there anytime you like. I felt the Irish temper coming up, and I had to say, he's trying to just do the best for me. So I said to him, I'm very old, so I can say this. I said, first of all, this is my body. Secondly, you are just a doctor. And thirdly, I will decide what I am doing with the decision making that I'm making. Then I looked at this lovely girl and I said, and I dance with my hips, not my hands. As I was doing all of that business. And the video of you prancing around the fire, I've got that for blackmail purposes, I tell you.
Hang on, no, I was dancing pretty well.
You were indeed.
You send me that. I might play that.
Yeah, well, yes, I will. But I wasn't sure if it was you or your brother from another mother, Craig.
Yeah, well, it was definitely me.
Yes, that's you. So it's on Telegram. I will send that to you from the Morocco girls. I'll send it to you. It's really funny. I think it was. I think you were helped with a little bit of whiskey, just the odd little tot.
Just a touch, yeah. Whatever gets you through the night in the desert.
Absolutely.
So.
And I wasn't allowed to do the camel ride.
No,
and I wasn't allowed to climb up at 5 o'clock and do the meditation on the dunes. You did
it. It was the doctor was right. You shouldn't have been dancing. You were bouncing that arm around all night.
You're a long time dead.
But you told some great stories and some very dirty jokes, and I was glad to have
I did not. You told the dirty joke.
No, you told some dirty joke. And I was glad to have
yours.
Well, you know. Anyway, let's talk about the PHA in Australia because
yes, so People's Health Alliance, so where we're at the moment is that we're collating. At the moment, we're just collating. So we've got a database of practitioners. Myself and Christine, who's one of the core groups, who's the administration, amazing. We went to visit someone who couldn't come to the volunteers. What do you mean by volunteers? What do we do? And basically, what we're asking people to do is be good neighbours. Because I was saying,
sorry, I can't let you get away with it. I can't let an Australian get away with saying "be good neighbours."
Neighbours, mate.
Everybody needs good neighbours.
Well, they've took it off now, so I can.
I heard it was
because they were saying, what will a volunteer do? And I said, look, I'm a classic example. On Monday, I had an appointment with a hand specialist at 10 o'clock at the local hospital. I still can't drive because obviously I can't. It's a manual car and I can't do that. As the coordinator of the volunteers, what I would do is look to see who is in the area who said, yep, I'd be prepared to do this. And I'd be phoning you up saying, Mark, could you drop Jacqueline off at the hospital at 10 o'clock for an appointment? You would say, yes, but I can't pick her up. And then I'd ask somebody else. Like, we're not asking people to do, if everybody does a tiny bit, then you'll stay. If we over swamp you, then everybody walks. So we're collating everything. And at the moment, as you know, what people want you to do is do it for them. When we're talking about health hubs, we are saying as the core group, we have got all the information, mainly from England, obviously, because that's where it was born, and it's now spread on to many countries in the world. We'll give you how to set up the hubs, but you will set them up. We won't. So the practitioners will own in their area what they can offer. And if people can pay, they'll pay. It has to be a sliding scale. Because the first thing they say to us is, well, how am I going to get paid? I'm like, you're not getting paid now. You refuse this, you lost your job, you're not getting paid. So this is a way of creating a health hub that eventually we will be able to pay for, because people already pay for massage, they pay for Reiki, they pay for whatever, even though in Australia you're paying a private medicine and a public through your tax. You're paying twice.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's like the way I think the way it should be done is the way that I priced your book and the way that I price anything that I sell most of the time, and that is pay what you can afford, because especially in this community, that people that watch this show, for example, or people that know what's going on in the world, I think they intrinsically know that. And there are multimillionaires watching this, and there's people on a fixed income. So I just you know, it's a 5D business model.
Yes.
And we have to, and like you said, it's like this bridge, building this bridge is really, really important, because we've got to create the structures to compete with what's currently there. But the things that are currently there are obviously crumbling, right?
Yeah.
There is a movement within this movement that are all waiting for the RV, and they're expecting. I mean, how many times have I heard, the RV's happening next week, I'm going to have 100 billion quid to go and do this. I'm like, really? You sure? Because my point has been, since I started this channel, if the RV does happen, brilliant, but see it as a bonus. Get off your ass now. In fact, I just want to show the viewers something. If you haven't seen my interviews with Catherine McBean.
Oh, yeah, she's brilliant.
She's the founder of the PHA. Yeah. She's amazing. Yeah. And when we called this video "Getting Off Your Ass and Building the New Now," because that's what we should be doing. And you're doing it, Jacqueline, which I think is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, but Lisa G, we've got Lisa G and Lisa E. Lisa keeps us in order, you know. Right, come on, let's have some points at the end of this. Let's have some goals. And there's literally only 6 of us. We turned up at a coffee. I don't know how we all heard about PHA, but we turned up for coffee and ended up with the core group, you know, being the core group. But what I did want to show you, you know, that this is on the front of my book. This is the picture.
Oh yeah, let me just remove myself. So yeah, stop speaking for a minute. Let me just remove myself so everybody can see.
This is a sculpture by I think it's J. Tupton, an English guy who's died now. But this to me epitomizes what we need to do. There's 2 hands holding this beautiful baby up. And what I say is, this in the hospital, the medical hand is enormous and the spiritual hand is tiny, and the baby drops through the hole in the middle. When you're doing home births, alternative births, sometimes the spiritual hand is enormous and the medical hand is tiny, and the baby falls down the bottom. We need both. We need both. And as you said, what we need is small, tiny hubs of safe birthing places. Why is home birth better? Because it's your home. When I knock on your door, you could say to me, "Oh God, it's you don't have to let me in." When I come in, and I really would love. Let me just look at the. Let me look at the first page, because this is my ethos, my whole ethos.
Nice fleur de lis in the background there.
hiding all my books.
Is that a dragon now? I can see as well.
Yeah, that's my painting. Do you like it?
Well, I can't really see it.
Well, I'll move my head. No, I'm moving the wrong way. Can you see it now?
Well, I can see it, but I can't see it. You know, it's not very. It looks like a dragon here.
It is a dragon.
Good.
Right. So this is on the book, a note from the author. And it's from the Tao Te Ching. These wonderful words express so beautifully the philosophy I've tried to adopt as I approached each birth. You are a midwife assisting at someone else's birth. Do good without show or fuss. Facilitate what is happening rather than what you think ought to be happening. If you must take the lead so that the mother is helped, yet still free and in charge. When the baby is born, the mother will rightly say, we did it ourselves. Laos, 6th century BC, China. To hold the belief that the woman didn't need me, that she had everything within her own power to birth her baby, and that I am the honoured, invited guest at her labour. And that's what we should be doing. We should be empowering people to deliver this sacred child the way they want to. And if that means she wants an emergency, she wants a booked section because that's all she can do, then respectfully do that. But then have low lights, have your incense burning, have beautiful music. You can still make it sacred. But what you've done is told her, your body can't do this. And that's sad. That's really, really sad. Because here's me going out on a limb. 1 in 3 women now are having their bellies cut open from hip to hip. Now, what that makes me think is that allows entities in.
Well, have you ever seen Janice Barcelo talk about birth?
Yes, absolutely. And Sarah Wickham is a British midwife, author, Dr. Sarah Wickham. She does beautiful books and articles to both for midwives and women, so the idea is you have all the information so you can stand up to the doctors and have what you want. And any doctor or midwife that's listening, I am not knocking you. I am saying you are in that position where you are there to empower the mother and obviously the father, but you're there to empower her. It's her birth, not yours.
Yeah, well, these are words of wisdom that need to be.
It's not that hard, mate. It's not that hard. And that's what I'm saying. I've been very privileged to be there. Very, very privileged.
No, I know that. You know that. But I've had terrible experiences with nurses in the hospital here in the last 6 months. They are just, there's something wrong with them. Obviously there's good ones that have left and didn't get that, and I've met some amazing ones as well. But the brainwashing is mind-blowing.
Well, I'm going at least once a week now for this hand therapy. As soon as I go in, they're still wearing masks here. I go up to the reception desk and she goes, I'll go, no, I'm exempt. I don't even let her say.
I don't even say that anymore. I just say, no, I'm not wearing it. It doesn't work.
And then they say, have you got, and they want to read out all the symptoms. I go, if I had any of that, I wouldn't be here. I've got my name, I'll go and sit down. And I just can't do it anymore. I can't even be polite to them. And I've got on my phone the article that says 50 million people died of bacterial pneumonia in the Spanish influenza that Fauci wrote the article on. So I showed the receptionist this. I mean, they don't care about you. Take it off. What are they going to do? Sack you all? We have to stand up.
Well, they're actually trying to kill them.
And we're letting them.
I know. And
if you wear the mask, you're letting them kill you. They cannot run the place without us. And that's what they've. So I listened to your interview with Michael Tellinger, and it's all within our power. None of this is hard. It just requires us to say no.
Yeah, but there's not enough of us at the moment. But it is the tide is shifting, and that's why I continue to make videos like this, because anybody that's new to waking up, this is what we have to do. It's like there would be no litter if everybody picked up a piece of litter. It's as simple as that.
What I would love people to understand about People's Health Alliance is we need everybody. We don't just need nurses and healers. If you've got any experience in, like you just said, there's multimillionaires or whatever's watching this. This industry, this service is going to need to be managed. Yeah. So, like I said, don't ask me to do spreadsheets. That's not my expertise. Thank goodness Christine and Lisa G are good at that. And so do it, because that's what we should be doing, empowering people to be the best you can be in your area. And that's we promote people past their level of competence, don't we? It's called the Peter Principle. The Peter Principle. Yeah, that when you promote somebody so that they're now the manager and they're useless at it, because I'm a good 2IC, because I'm the blue sky worker, I've got all the ideas, but don't ask me to cross T's and dot I's. It's not what I'm good at, which is why they make me media and PR. Because I can talk. Yeah. Well, you can. I know you can talk. Jesus. And sell the idea. What's the web address of the PHA? In Perth, it's PHA Perth. .what? .com. Just .com. That's for us in Australia. We are going to be dropping the Perth bit because at the moment we're going to be. You'll go on PHA Australia and then it will show you the map of Australia and you click on WA or New South Wales or whatever. But that hasn't happened yet. Jacqueline. It'll happen next month. Oh, God. Wait, I'm trying to find this website. I want to show everybody. Catherine's done a great thing with this. Oh, she's fantastic. I love her. Yeah. It's we the people. It's we the people taking care of each other. Absolutely. This is great. Yeah. So, PHAPerth.com. Yep, that's us. If you're in Australia, do you know the website? Can you remember the website for the PHA generally? Well, if you put in PHA Australia, you'll get the other side. Not for Australia, the main one in the UK. It's just PHA because that's UK. Just PHA.com. Yeah, UK. I don't think it is. Yeah, I think it is. It's not. Oh, I don't know then. It's too technical. I'm just trying to find it for people watching because I can't remember. But tomorrow in Perth at 2:00. We've got a meeting. It's a social gathering for people who have joined or are interested in joining. And that's going to be at Zambia Cafe in Kings Park in Perth at 2:00. And the big flag will say PHA, so you'll find us. What day is that? Tomorrow, Saturday. That means I've got to put this video up today. Okay. No, because it's every month. We're there every month. Okay, first Saturday of every month. There. So if you guys watching don't know about the PHA and you're in the UK, then I found the web address. It's thepha.org. Tell them to join both, whether you're in Australia or England. It'll only work if you join. And support it if you can. Absolutely. And obviously, we will eventually be doing the food side of it, like Catherine said. But so we only started in August, so we're very new. We're embryos. Well, that's... embryos is the perfect word to end this chat on, because we were all embryos once, and look at us now. And yes, look at us now. Look how far we've come. Well, I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad your wrist is getting better, and I'm glad you've written this book. You guys watching, even if you just send it to anybody that you know that is thinking of having a baby at some point, or has already got one, maybe some more coming on the way. And the more, I like the fact that it's like a midwife story as well, instead of like an instructional thing, because it's an experiential thing. And it's also a good read. So buy it anyway. Yeah. And let's help. It's all good. It's all good. It's all very positive. All of this is very positive, and you're doing great stuff, Jacqueline. Well, my closing reason, the reason that I want this book out there is because in England, you can have a domino birth. It stands for domestic in and out. So the midwife goes in, you phone her, I think I'm in labour. She goes in, assesses, brings you into the hospital, births you and brings you home after 6 hours. It's usually a second-time mom who doesn't want to leave the first baby overnight. As a midwife, I hated it because how quickly is the second time mum going to birth? I've no idea. Neither do you. And so I wanted to say, my name's Jacqueline, get your coat, right? So I'd rocked up, and this is a story in the book. I'd rocked up in November, freezing cold, icy, 4 o'clock in the morning jobby. And when I examined this woman, I went, do you want the good news or the bad? The good news is you're 7 centimeters dilated. You're fantastically almost there. The bad news is I can't put you in a car, do a 20-minute ride in the freezing cold. She's going to birth on the side of the road and the baby will get hypothermia. So we're staying for a home birth. So he hated me. She had no option because her body was getting on with it. The student midwife arrived because she was, anyway, they knew her. And now when we're writing up all the busy notes and whatever, Pearl had got the gas and air, which you're now not allowed to use here in Australia to help with pain relief. And she said, Pearl, thank you so much. I'm like, what? Me? I'm the one that's done all this. And she said, for bringing the gas and air. But this is the closing comment. She then said, if I'd have known how wonderful a home birth was, I would have had it with my first. Yeah. That's the whole point of the book, Mark. The whole point of the book, that these are, when you read the stories, you just, yeah, the men are just so beautiful in it because they actually forget you're there. That's really beautiful. When they start calling their partner by their loving names because they've forgotten you're there. That's precious. So congratulations for being a daddy of 5. Trouble is, they're teenagers now.
They don't care.
And you know, and you can't send them back. That's the bugger of it.
I love them all. I've got to go and take one to town in a minute. And it's, you know, being a parent, whew, yeah,
hardest job on the planet.
It is actually. Yeah, it is. It is.
But one day you'll be a granddad, and there you go. That will be the reward. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be a grandma, but there you go. Can't have everything.
Yeah, well, I hope I get there. You
will.
Thank you for sharing all of this. Thank you for writing.
Thank you for letting me be here.
This. Yeah, and keep it up, and keep in touch, and let me know if there's anything I can help promote, or if there's any other stories that come out of the PHA developing down in Australia. That's worth reporting on. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, Jacqueline. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.
Take care. God bless. Thanks.